What is up, everybody, on a Sunday? Giving you your Crimson Tide football news on the hottest podcast out there. We're talking about the BAMA Elite Touchdown, Alabama Magazine, with the three baddest men in here. Justin Smith, lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA. Patrick Dow, breaking news reporter. My man at the bottom of the screen there for TDA. I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, fresh off of the bye week. Alabama, LSU this week, the week people have been waiting for, the LSU hate week, as fans like to call it, can now openly start here for the Alabama football faithful. And before we get to the conversation, you got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for the best college football coverage in the South. We want you guys all the time to check out us here at the Bama Elite, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Be sure to give us a thumbs up on the show here on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. We encourage all you guys supporting us right here, but also check out that Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream. And also our guys at Prize Picks, who do a phenomenal job. Fantasy sports, especially where Alabama football is concerned, using that code BAMA100, that'll get you right in there, playing that fantasy sports there for your Crimson Tide. But Pat, after a bye week, getting a chance to watch some other teams play, and Alabama healing up, doing some self-scouting there, and some camp-like things. Now we get back. Second half of the Alabama season starts this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts off with probably its biggest game of the season to date against LSU, who's right there with them in the SEC West to try to be their representative to go to the SEC championship. So, I mean, their postseason lives are on the line this week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Justin, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Excited about the rest of the season. Excited to see this LSU matchup. Always exciting to watch Alabama LSU, just the tradition and history that this game has. And also, like you said, this past weekend, got an opportunity to watch some other SEC teams in action. I've seen some of them throughout the season, but this weekend gave me an opportunity to watch them a little bit more. So, yeah, it was a pretty exciting weekend in college football.
Pretty good bye week there for the Crimson Tide. Like I mentioned, getting that rest in, doing some self-scouting, some camp things, as Pat brought up. This week against the LSU, normally when LSU is good, this matchup decides the SEC West. And there have been some close games in years past. There have been some nail-biters in years past. There have been some games between Alabama and LSU that have had us on the edge of our seat. And even though Brian Kelly started off his first game as the coach of the Tigers with a loss to Florida State, 24-23, the Tigers have certainly rebounded. They're 6-2 on the year. Jayden Daniels has sort of found himself a bit at quarterback. Kayshon Boutte, we know the elite receiver he is. The Tigers have got some guys defensively that can affect the pass and the run game. And Justin, we've talked about this. Another chance, Alabama on the road. Can it be a team that can go on the road and get it done and not have the frustrations, not have the anxiety, not have the over-concernedness, but can it go on the road, take the crowd out of the game, take the opposition out of its element? Can it go on the road and be a dominant, disciplined football team, Justin?
Yeah, I think that is a big question. I think we probably won't believe it until we see it. They have to be disciplined, especially on those offsides and false starts. Hectic, crazy environment is going to be in Baton Rouge on next Saturday. You've been there before now. Unfortunately, you have not played at your best in those particular environments. But like you said, Stephen, get an opportunity to brush off those games and come in and be more disciplined and show up on the road. And I think just being more disciplined will pay huge dividends for Alabama next weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Justin. Believe it when I see it. And I've been waiting to see it for 2 years now because the same issues on the road have been popping up for Alabama, and no more so apparent than a couple weeks ago in Knoxville when they had 17 penalties. And at least this collection of players hasn't proven yet to be able to handle the on-road environment. So if I had to give an answer, I would say probably not. But, Alabama, it should benefit from having this week off and just zeroing in, because this is another one, like I mentioned, it's the biggest game of the year for Alabama, and they got to go into this game knowing that this is probably the hardest place to play in all college football.
A very difficult place to play, Pat. That's Death Valley, Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But thankfully for the Tide here, you're going to have a healthy Bryce Young for this game. Had a good bye week to get that throwing shoulder healed, throwing shoulder recovered back to 100%. I know most people would say having an 80 to 85% Bryce Young is better than what most teams have, but you definitely want to have the magic man at 100% out there on the field where he can do the things that he does, maneuvering with that football in his hands. But also, Tide fans are hopeful that maybe, DJ Dale or Jaheim Otis can be back this week. Coach Saban spoke on, both of those two were listed as day-to-day heading into the bye week, did not play against Mississippi State. So you're hoping you can have either Dale or Jaheim Otis back. We all know that Justin Eboigbe is out for the remainder of the season, having that neck procedure he had. So this brings up Byron Young, Tim Smith, Jamil Burrows, guys like Jamarian Latham, Damon Payne. They got to step up a whole lot more. But in the defensive secondary, we did see against State, or Eli Ricks getting that first start and playing phenomenal. 4 pass breakups, forced 5 incompletions. He looks like he is that guy that can bring that energy and that consistent play to the secondary. So the bye week, getting some guys healed up, getting some guys prepared to go out there and do some stuff. But, first and foremost, Pat, having a Bryce Young back healthy, big deal there.
Yeah, I mean, if Bryce Young was only 80 to 85% when they played Tennessee, I think any team in college football would take that. But yeah, this is going to be good. Has probably been a good opportunity for Bryce Young to get healthy. And also on the defensive line, that depth's really getting tested. I think Alabama is going to really want to get some of those guys back this week, namely Dale and Otis, because look, LSU wants to run the football. They rushed for 23 touchdowns this season. Jaden Daniels is a mobile quarterback who you have to corral. So you want to have as many fresh guys up front as you can for this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Pat. You definitely wanted to get more guys, and you wanted to get more guys hefty this past week. And to be honest, I think Saban was talking about how Bryce Young is still working through the injury, but similar to what Pat said, watching the game, I wasn't sure if he was hurt or not. He looked pretty good in those last 2 games that he was in. So having him get an opportunity to get back more healthy, I'm pretty sure that is going to be a benefit to Alabama's offense. But similar to also what Pat said, the defensive line, I think getting some more guys back up there healthy will be very beneficial over the last couple of weeks. Even though for programs like Auburn, of course, Auburn is not in the best place, but we all know what the Iron Bowl stands for, how they play in that particular matchup. Also take a look at when the Crimson Tide take on Ole Miss, who has a dangerous running attack as well. So getting some guys back healthy along defensive front will help Alabama moving forward throughout the rest of the season.
Well, folks, as always, you got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for the best college football coverage in the South. If you can't get us right here at the BAMA Elite Touchdown Alabama magazine here on YouTube right here, you want to check out that Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream. Also, check out our guys at Prize Picks, who do a phenomenal job. Fantasy sports, whether it's college football, college basketball, NBA, NFL, esports, boxing, UFC. Like they got the whole slate there with that more or less projections. You against the projections there. That means if you put in that $50 deposit or $100 deposit, you can get that matched back to you there. It's you against the projections using that code BAMA100. That's BAMA100. Get that right there. Prize Picks. Our guys doing a phenomenal job over there. But, Pat, you size up this matchup here. Brian Kelly, his 3rd time taking on a Nick Saban coached Alabama team. He did this. He had this tango twice before at Notre Dame. The national championship game, 2013 game of the 2012 season. I mean, Brian Kelly got waxed there. And then the 2020 college football playoff, the Rose Bowl in Texas due to COVID happening that year. Notre Dame lost that one. Brian Kelly now in the SEC as the head coach of LSU. He mentioned last week, look, this is why I came to LSU. I want this shot at Alabama. I want this shot at Nick Saban. He's got it at Tiger Stadium in a night game. Like, here it is for Brian Kelly. I mean, for him, for Alabama in this matchup, Pat, what do you want to see in terms of, okay, this is a team that can for real get to this college football playoff and finish, especially when you're going up against Brian Kelly. Third time, he feels like it's the charm for him. What do you want to see from Bama, Pat?
Well, definitely a significant cutback on the penalties and just mental mistakes in general, because those have plagued Alabama on the road just far, far too many times. And like, we just kind of have to wait and see if that will actually come to fruition. But, I think Brian Kelly actually deserves a lot of credit, because this season did not start off well with that first game.
It did not. I mean, Florida State, that was awful. That was awful.
Yeah, no, that was an insane game with the blocked extra point. It was just a whole tornado of craziness. But they've really rebounded well over the past. They've found an identity under Kelly here. And look, he's good in his first year. I think, especially based off the first week, I'll put my hand up. I didn't think that this would be such a big game going into Saturday.
Yeah, I think it will be a great one just based on the way LSU has played. I think that is why this game is getting more attention now. I think a couple of weeks ago we were not circling this game on the schedule. Just to shows how far LSU has come along in that time. And I think Jaden Daniels' play has played a huge role in that. I know last time I saw them in action, he seemed to be running the football every play, because he is a dual threat quarterback who can make some plays with his feet. So I think containing him will be very important, because he seems like one of those quarterbacks who will escape the pocket probably a little bit earlier than you think he might. If he sees a running opportunity, he's going to take it. So I think containing him will be very important. Also, holding a top wide receiver again. We talked about it in the past. Alabama has struggled covering elite wide receivers and containing them, in particular Hyatt, Evan Stewart, going back to Texas, Xavier Worthy. Butte is a talented guy. We've seen that on display already. So containing a top wide receiver, I think that's going to be very important. And also what is going to be equally important is containing Jaden Daniels.
Well, real quick, I think I was going to say real quick, in terms of containing Kayshon Butte, I know Alabama struggled against Tennessee to lock down the number one receivers, but there may not be a player in this country who knows Butte better than Eli Ricks, who's out in Alabama secondary now. So that's going to be a matchup that we're all going to be looking for. I think everyone's going to be looking forward to this weekend.
Absolutely. And before we even get into Ricks there, Pat, because that's a good segue, we got some love here from one of our listeners, Quintez Nelson, who's actually a Tennessee fan. Nelson writes in, I'm a volunteer fan. I stumbled upon this podcast and have become a huge fan. I'm inspired to start a podcast on my own for Tennessee volunteers. Keep up the great work, guys. Very inspiring. So we're getting some love here from a Tennessee fan that's been checking out this podcast. But jumping back here, Pat, into your thought on Eli Ricks, he goes back to Baton Rouge. He goes back home. Well, not home as far as his hometown, but he goes back to his former team with a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. He was a freshman All-American 2020 when he played at LSU. So quite naturally, Nick Saban's going to look at him and say, you see Kayshon Butte? Take him completely out of the picture here. And whoever the other guy is that Kool-Aid McKinstry will have, that guy. But, I mean, Pat, what do you expect to see from Ricks here after the way he played against Mississippi State? He's had a bye week, and now he goes back to the Bayou. What do you want to see from Mr. Ricks here?
Well, I don't know if we're going to get a Mississippi State level performance, because that really was tremendous what he did a couple weeks ago against the Bulldogs. But look, just take away, because look, Kayshon Butte is a great receiver, and honestly, whoever he's matched up against, they have a couple guys who are actually pretty good on their offense. So just minimizing the big plays, or just taking them away in general, because look, like Nick Saban said, every defensive back is going to get beat at some point. But I think Ricks, I think he has shown the ability with his length and whatnot to be a really, really good coverage guy. So he's a good fit for this defense, and I think he's going to be looked upon to, make as big of an impact as possible.
Yeah, and I think Eli Ricks will be important this weekend. I think he has came in at the right time, just based on that game against Tennessee. Alabama fans were dogging the Crimson Tide secondary. Oh, this is the worst secondary ever. They got burnt the whole game. He comes in against Mississippi State and sort of gives Alabama fans some hope in the secondary that it can improve, that it can get better. And I think if he's on the field, if he could take away Butte, I think that will be very important, especially just looking at Jaden Daniels. Daniels, like I said, he's growing. I'm pretty sure Kayshawn is a guy that he trusts. He knows he has that elite talent. If you take away one of his weapons, I think that will slow him down a little bit. So I think that will be very beneficial if Eli Ricks can do that for the Crimson Tide on this weekend heading into this matchup with LSU. And also with them being so confident, I think that is why he is one of the has the possibility of being one of the top cornerbacks in college football. He just plays with this different level of confidence. I think if you want to be a cornerback, college, NFL, you have to have a crazy level of confidence. And Eli Ricks seems to have that. And Alabama's secondary seems to pull from that as well. So I think having him on the field will be very beneficial. And also shout out to Nelson. I saw that Tennessee game against Kentucky. And whoa, Tennessee's offense just continues to look really good. And I don't know if Kentucky's defense even looked at Alabama's film, because basically the same thing that killed Alabama destroyed them. Jalen Hyatt was running free behind the secondary, but we'll talk about that on another show. But yeah, I think Eli Ricks will be very beneficial this weekend.
We got Skipper X who writes in Alabama will have their hands full with Jaden Daniels. Said the young man is an elusive quarterback. Daniels, coming over from Arizona State, has improved each game as the starting quarterback for LSU. Big Buck writes in the road struggles are very concerning. So Big Buck goes back to what you guys have mentioned, Justin and Pat, about Alabama on the road. Can it handle it? And they have not consistently showed that the last 2 years. Here's a game at this point, the biggest game of the year against LSU, to show that they can handle this on the road. But as always, folks, Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream. Check that out. Best college football coverage in the South. If you can't check us out here, the Bama Elite Touchdown Alabama magazine right here on YouTube. Give us a like on the show. Hit that thumbs up. Make this your podcast every Sunday and Thursday to talk about your Crimson Tide. All donations welcomed also. And then check out our guys at Prize Picks, who do an unbelievable job. Fantasy sports. If Alabama football is your thing, they got the projections right there. I mean, using that code BAMA100, but it's BAMA100 right there for one Prize Picks. But college football playoff, guys, where Alabama's concerned. I mean, the AP poll came out. Bama's still at number 6. Still 5 teams ahead of the Crimson Tide. We know at some point Michigan and Ohio State is going to face each other. We know Tennessee and Georgia are going to face each other, so that will kind of cancel that out. Alabama, what it's got to do, win out the rest of the regular season, get to the SEC championship, and be able to win that and make the college football playoff. So, just I'm going to start with you. Alabama's college football playoff hopes stay alive in this game against LSU if what happens?
I think if they contain Jaden Daniels, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Slow down this LSU offense. I think that is how LSU can win this game and be spectacular. I think this goes back to what we've said a lot of times when Alabama is going up against a team. The quarterback has to play spectacular. He has to have a great game, and that has been what we've seen. Even though it has been guys that we may not have thought about will have great games going back to Texas A&M last year, but Hendon Hooker was a guy we definitely had more respect for heading into that matchup. But the quarterback has to play really well to beat Alabama. So I think if the Crimson Tide contain Jaden Daniels, I think they will have an opportunity to keep their playoff hopes alive and keep trucking. But the battle is definitely not done. Ole Miss still on the schedule. Auburn. I know Auburn's in a bad place, but they have some magic in the Iron Bowl. They have some Iron Bowl magic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Justin. They definitely have to contain Jaden Daniels because I think Alabama's offense is going to be able to score on LSU's defense. It's not. I don't think it's the same level of, there's like 7 or 8 NFL guys on that side of the ball. Yeah, they're kind of starting over a little bit even with Kelly here in his first year. But yeah, I think containing Jaden Daniels and not allowing them to consistently move the ball on the ground to make the game shorter and just to keep Bryce Young off the field, I think that's going to be very integral for Alabama's success.
Going to be huge here when you look at this matchup between Alabama and LSU. Also, guys, another cool thing tomorrow. It's Nick Saban's birthday. Turns 71 on tomorrow. So will this be 71 Debbie cakes? 71 cups of coffee? I don't think it's going to have 71 cups of coffee. We know he's going to have the birthday cake there. But the big question, who is going to sing the happy birthday song to Coach Saban? We know that's a tradition. Daniel Wright carried that torch for quite the amount of time. I didn't think Daniel Wright could sing until he opened his mouth and, removed all doubt on my end, could sing. So it's going to be interesting to see which player steps up and take on, kind of that mantle. But Coach Saban, Pat, turns 71 tomorrow, and hopefully he can end that, week, that birthday week with a strong win over his former team, in which Saban has won 5 against LSU in the Bayou.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's honestly pretty insane that he's 71 years old. He still looks great for being a 71-year-old. I hope to be looking as good as he does, and still being as good as I am at my job by the time of that old. But yeah, no, he's had a lot of success recently against LSU, but I know it's a very, very dangerous place to go, and you can't really necessarily bank off your past success when you go into Death Valley there. So Alabama's definitely going to need to bring their A game here this weekend.
Yeah, it's always insane. We just take a look at Saban and say, "Yo, he's 71 years old." It's always comes off a bit surprising. So yeah, definitely a happy birthday goes out to him on tomorrow. Halloween birthday as always, and I think it's usually around the LSU game as well. Former team, pretty sure he's excited to get back to Baton Rouge to take on the LSU Tigers in Tiger Stadium.
So, now some of the coolest memories of this rivalry game. I mean, you go back to, I think it was 2008, where John Parker Wilson scores in the end zone late. 2009, you had the Julio Jones screen pass for a touchdown there. 2010, Jordan Jefferson finds a way to get it done for LSU. 2011 was the 9-6 game of the century in Tuscaloosa. Boy, I was at that one. That one still eats at me to this day. 2012, you had the TJ Yeldon screen pass. There's so many great memories here from this matchup, from this series. I mean, Pat, do you see this one being close than what a lot of folks think? I know so far you've already got guys like Joel Klatt mentioning that, hey, Alabama on upset alert against MSU. You've got Greg McElroy saying that, hey, this is an upset game here. Do you see this game, Pat, being closer than what the experts think it may be?
I could definitely see it just based off Alabama's performance on the road. They haven't been good on the road in 2 years. So even if there is a serious talent discrepancy between the two, the game might still be close because they'll be shooting themselves in the foot with all these penalties. So I would say I would lean towards saying that this would probably be a closer game than we would expect.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons why this game could be closer than we expected a couple of weeks ago. So I think this game is going to be pretty close. One thing is Alabama's offense, the efficiency of the offense. Of course, like we said, over the last couple of weeks, Alabama has not made a lot of plays based on the play calling, based on the route combinations. A lot of these plays are being made on Bryce Young going off script, making plays on the run and keeping plays alive, keeping his eyes downfield. So I think that will also be very important. I'm pretty sure LSU is going to try to take advantage of that, try to get pressure on Bryce Young as much as possible. I think teams have a little bit more success against Alabama when they are able to get more pressure on him. So I think that will definitely play a role, along with just like I said earlier, containing LSU's offense and containing their run game. They have some decent running backs on their team as well.
So Justin, how impactful? We've talked about Eli Ricks, and we talked about for LSU, Keishawn Butte, but Tyler Harrell, like how impactful could he be in this game? I mean, against Mississippi State. People were wondering, is he real? Is he a myth? Are we being catfished here? And he takes the field, has the 12-yard catch from Jalen Milroe, and Bama fans go, all right, he is real. Cool. We can check that box off. And so Nick Saban during the bye week talked about he's more comfortable. He's more confident. He's gotten even more so in the offensive game plan. And with the speed he brings over from Louisville, Coach Saban talks about this. We mentioned Boutte. Could this be a situation where we see Harrell kind of maybe get 2 catches, maybe get 3, maybe get a bit more out there here, Justin?
Yeah, I think we got to see it. If he got in the game a little bit more against Mississippi State, maybe I'll feel better about saying he will get an opportunity to play against LSU. But Alabama's wide receiver secondary is not secondary, but the wide receiver group is loaded. Not loaded in terms of their production, but like as far as their rotation, like 6 guys are getting rotated in and out at the moment, and he's not cracked into that top 6 just yet. Of course, he's coming back from injury and everything, so we have to see him get on the field and get that opportunity. Of course, Saban has said they want to give him that opportunity, but I'm just waiting to see if he actually gets an opportunity to get on the field. We know what speed can do, and we think he can be very beneficial with the right type of schemes and the right type of game plan in terms of an offensive strategy. But we have to see him get on the field. I think that's the thing we're still waiting to see, because there was only one. He played a couple snaps, but it was only 1 catch.
Yeah, I mean, how many weeks in a row have we been saying what kind of impact Tyler Harrell going to have this week? Yeah. I mean, it's been going on and on and on, and it's not necessarily his fault because he has been injured, but like Justin said, they've already have such a deep rotation, but at the same time, that level of production isn't really there. So maybe Tyler Harrell that does have a chance whenever he's full, ready to go, understands the system, fully healthy, to break through and maybe be the number 1 guy. But based off the previous couple of weeks, I would, again, I'm leaning toward maybe not.
We got some people in the chat here discussing one Tyler Harrell. One person in particular, Mike Coleman, writes in, who? Tyler who? We have hurried up and waited. It's time for him to bring something. So that comes from Mike Coleman on Tyler Harrell. The Bama Standard, my guys, Justin Riley, comedy legend Steve Brown, Marvin Constant, those guys are writing in. Too many weeks in a row we've been asking there for Tyler Harrell. They also write in some jet sweeps here when it comes down to Tyler Harrell. But we will see. We shall see. We shall see what cooks up here between Coach Saban and the Alabama football program here in terms of this situation with Harrell. 6-0 is writing in right now. He puts in, if Alabama wants to be in the playoff, it's got to come out focused, inspired, dominate. P.S. Leave anxiety at home. People are really talking about, Coach Saban and Will Anderson mentioned the anxiety thing there that happened against Tennessee. My thing is going to be is how do they come out of the tunnel against LSU? That's what my eyes will be on, because I'm looking forward to being down there in Baton Rouge. So my eyes will be on when they come out the tunnel. How are they looking like? Are they looking like, okay, we're ready to play a football game? Or are they not? Are they not coming out there with the focus that they need to? So my thing is going to be, how do they come out of the tunnel here for this matchup against LSU? We got Patricia Purdue writing in, the way you guys are talking, just count Bama as a loss. Not saying that Alabama's going to lose the football game. We're just saying, hey, Alabama's got to come out here and play. You got to come out here and play, because you're getting everybody's best shot. You're getting LSU's best shot, Auburn's best shot, Ole Miss's best shot. They're not just going to lay down just because you got the A on your helmet. They coming out for your blood too, just like you're coming out for their blood. So it's not the fact that the way y'all talk and just count Bama as a loss. No, the way we talk, we're trying to size up this game here, because LSU got ballers, just like Alabama's got ballers. It's just who ballers got what it take to pay the toll right now. So that's the main key component, key picture right there. But I mean, it's going to be interesting, Pat. It's going to be one way. Like I mentioned, Brian Kelly won't this one. He been eyeing this one for a minute. Nick Saban won't this too. But Brian Kelly's like, hey, like, you got me twice, but you coming down to Tiger Nation. I want this one. I want, for all the gumbo in the world, I want this one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I mean, even without Kelly's history against Nick Saban, LSU is going to play with an edge against Alabama at home, or just whenever they play in general. They're going to have that edge. And Alabama, I like the previous comment said, they got to leave that anxiety at home. And if they're not coming down and playing with an edge or playing with some sort of emotion or passion, and they have that anxiety still sticking around from Tennessee, it's going to be another rough one for them, I think.
Yeah, I don't think the biggest thing with Alabama heading into this matchup, and what a lot of Alabama fans have been talking about, there are problems that this team has to address before we could talk about them making a run for the national championship. And right now, it's time has basically been cut down. It's 4 weeks left in the regular season in terms of 4 games in the SEC championship, so they have to focus in on getting better in a lot of those facets, correcting those penalties on the on the backside of the defense, better communication in the secondary. We that they had a big game against Mississippi State, but like I said on the last episode, Elite, against Tennessee really tested them down the field. Mississippi State did not do that. So if I'm LSU, I'm going to come up with the game plan. Let's test these guys down the field. Let's get some things going where there are guys like DeMarco Hellams looks underneath and we hit them over the top of the head. So I think that is something, if I'm LSU, that I'm installing in my game plan to test Alabama's secondary out, and also the defensive line, getting pressure on the quarterback, not coming from the edge rushers. That is why Alabama came up with the cheetah package, because they were not getting enough on pressure. So we need to get our best pass rushers on the field. So I'm not sure if those guys will wake up and become better pass rushers, those interior guys, but Alabama definitely needs to find some answers. There are some guys who can be more effective at getting after the quarterback in the interior of their defensive line. So in the defense as a whole, better communication and stuff like that. So I think that as the team continues to grow, we definitely feel they have an opportunity to get better, but there are some problems that they have to fix that they have an opportunity to do so over the next couple of weeks.
Everybody, in terms of just the Alabama nation, has had their own conversation about Bama's coordinators. In particular, here, Pete Golding defensively. And going down to LSU for Pete Golding, because if you look at just the fan base, it's, Bama used to be like this. They used to be ruthless. They used to be nasty. They used to bring the pain. And people used to be afraid. People used to come off the bus and pee their pants before even playing Alabama. Now nobody is afraid at all. I mean, what's going on with this? When you look at Coach Golding here in this matchup, Justin, there are times where the blitz packages have been good. The pressure packages have been good. And then there have been games like Tennessee where the adjustments are not being made the way they need to. And then you get the 3-point loss to Tennessee. What does Pete Golding have to do all week to ensure, hey, we're getting the pressure packages, but most importantly, we're getting adjustments made, we're getting calls corrected, we're getting the right substitutions, the right personnel packages on the field? Like, what does he have to do this week to cover himself and assure these things? Because this is what the people are talking about. They're talking about, hey, like, we're not getting the right packages. Our guys look lost at times out there on the field. What do you want to see from Pete Golding in that, Justin?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like I said, getting pressure on Jaden Daniels. So I'm really interested in seeing those blitz packages. They did a really good job blitzing Mississippi State. Like I said, against Tennessee, after that matchup, at a certain point in the game, they basically just went away from the blitz. They didn't blitz Hendon Hooker at all. I feel like in the second half, it seemed as if they wanted to get back to it. They knew that they had to incorporate that more into their defensive game plan, and that seemed to be what happened in that Mississippi State matchup. Sending Brian Branch, who talked about the fact that he wants to be a better pass rusher, be more effective as a blitzer. Like I've said in the past, talking about him and Malachi Moore, they are not the best blitzers. They did not come in with a background of getting after the quarterback at high school football level. But the Crimson Tide likes to blitz the position that they play a lot. So they have grown so more in that particular facet of the game. I think Brian Branch has come along a lot over the last couple of weeks, which is why I think he started to have some success as finding those rushing blitzing lanes and rushing lanes, and also talking with, like you said, Dallas Turner, Will Anderson, and Chris Broswell. What can I do to be a better pass rusher and get after the quarterback when I am called upon a blitz? And I think he's growing as a defensive back as a whole, just being more effective. So I think dialing up the pressure will be very important this weekend. Also, just looking at the Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, I think LSU will have a bit more dependency on the run game than some teams in the past. So, of course, when you have a team that's running the football, you're going to need your outside linebackers to be a little more patient, not necessarily run up the field a lot. So I think that will be very important as well.
Yeah, I think pressuring Jane Daniels and actually getting him on the ground is going to be very, very important because Alabama really didn't, like you mentioned, Alabama really didn't blitz Tennessee a few weeks ago, and they were able. Hendon Hooker was able to sit back there and just cut them up on the back end. So getting after Jane Daniels is going to be very, very important, whether it's blitzes or sending more than 3 guys. Because I know Alabama has Will Anderson up there, but you got to be a little more creative because you can kind of if you just have Will Anderson and two of their interior guys who we've mentioned aren't the greatest pass rushers in the world, then there's a lot of different ways an offense can handle Will Anderson, whether that's double teams, chips, tight end chips, anything to kind of just because he's a great player, but when he's got to go through 2 or 3 guys every single play, it just makes life a lot tougher for Alabama's defense. And so whether it's dialing up blitzes or getting the right packages in there, but I think that's going to be really important for Alabama, and staying in consistent communication on the back end also, because a lot of those problems popped up against Tennessee as well, where there's guys running into each other, slipping. So just having that core communication on the back end while also dialing up blitzes or just having success in the pass rush is going to be really important.
Appreciate everybody for getting their conversation on in our YouTube chat line. Everybody chatting right there. Hit that thumbs up. Give a like on the show. Hit that subscribe button. Give us that thumbs up here. Make this your podcast every Thursday and Sunday. The Bama Elite Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Well, Justin, this thought goes right into your wheelhouse. Dante Whitaker had wrote it about, Alabama needs to get back to recruiting those in-state homegrown talent guys, those guys like C.J. Mosley, Rolando McClain, Reggie Ragland, those types of guys, Ryan Anderson defensively, those guys that grew up around the Bama culture. So, Justin, I want to ask you, with you being on the road as you are, you're deep in the Alabama recruiting. You're seeing these guys every single day, every single week. You're evaluating them. You're scouting them. Do you sense that? Do you sense like Saban's got to get back to getting the in-state homegrown guys that have grew up in this culture, that grew up watching Reuben Foster lay those hits, watching Ryan Anderson lay those hits, watching C.J. Mosley play the way he played, being a part of that culture, and what made Alabama football, what it is. Does Bama does Saban need to get back to recruiting more so of this state where defensive players are concerned?
Well, I think it is going to be beneficial for them to do so. I don't think they have not. They have definitely not stopped recruiting inside the state, and the state is actually ridiculously loaded for the next couple of years. So I think they have a golden opportunity to get back into that wheelhouse. Just looking at the 2023 class, loaded with 5 stars inside the state of Alabama. I don't think there's been a time where there's been 5 or 6 5-stars in Alabama. That rarely happens. And the 2024 class has an opportunity to do the same thing. So I think that's going to be very important, particularly on the defensive front. I think when you take a look at Alabama's last couple of recruiting classes, the Crimson Tide seem to have recruited more finesse guys, not really the power, nasty defensive linemen, just looking in the trenches. I think that is starting to come to the forefront, particularly DJ Dell. Extremely athletic in high school. Wasn't known for his physicality, but more so known to the fact that he was like a really athletic 300-pound guy. He was a wildcat quarterback at times. That just shows you how athletic he was seen as a defensive lineman. Byron Young, Justin Boygby. Justin Boygby was a fierce defensive lineman prospect, and I think he was starting to show that a little bit more this year, but he of course he's hurt. But of course, Byron Young is known for that as well. Bigger guy, but finesse type of guy. I was really impressed with the way that he can really use his hands and make moves and stuff like that. Not really known as a physical prospect. So I think the Crimson Tide have to definitely get back to getting guys who are physical, nasty, dangerous in the trenches. And I think they did a decent job, in my opinion, in this last recruiting cycle. I think Curtis Perry is the most violent high school player I ever seen play in my life. Just the way the physicality and the violence that he plays with. Unfortunately, he does not have the size at the moment to compete in the SEC, but he's getting bigger, so he's probably going to make an impact in a couple of years. And now Jeremiah Alexander is another guy who plays with that physicality. Again, he is an outside linebacker. Alabama's outside linebacker room is deep, so he probably can't get on the field. But looking at this 2023 class, you have guys like Quay Russaw, who plays with that violence and that mean streak. James Smith is another violent guy in the interior of the defensive line. So I think the Crimson Tide have to get back to finding those physical guys who have a chip on their shoulder, specifically in the trenches, because I feel you have to be a different animal in the trenches to make some noise as a pass rusher, to stop the run. You have to have that mentality to be that physical guy. And the Crimson Tide has had that in the past. You just turn on TV on Sunday and see so many ex-Alabama players along the defensive front of NFL teams.
Well, I mean, I think what you were just describing probably is the perfect description of Jaheim Otis, like one of those big physical guys that are up there. And that's probably one of the reasons why he's getting on the field so quickly as a freshman. But like circling back around to the other point that was made, getting those in-state guys who, just grew up in the University of Alabama, playing at Alabama football was their destination. And I think that's really important, especially for team culture, to have a bunch of guys on your team that really, really deeply care about winning, especially at Alabama. It's not so, and they have a deep understanding of the history and the culture and everything like that. I think that's really important to have on your team.
Definitely an important aspect. And I think along with that is you look at this, being able to show those guys a lot of the footage of those Alabama teams in years past under Saban, where they watch those hits, they watch those tackles, they watch the mental dominance that those other Bama teams inflicted upon their opponent. Just seeing how those guys played, I understand that the expectations at times can be unfair, but when you walk into the University of Alabama, you kind of are standing on the shoulders of guys that came before you to set that in motion. Especially if you're playing inside linebacker at Alabama, you're standing on Rolando McClain's shoulders. You're standing on C.J. Mosley. You're standing on Reggie Ragland. You're standing on Reuben Foster. You're standing on Rashawn Evans. That's a big deal. You're standing on what those guys have built. And in order for you to know that and recognize that, I think the program's going to have to show those clips of, okay, this is what Reuben did. This is what this guy did. Here's how that guy brought it. We're not, I guess, asking you to be that, but we want to put this in front of you so you can build toward that. And I think that's something that Alabama, that the coaching staff is going to have to do, is put that on tape and let these guys see, okay, am I going to be a Reuben Foster? Of course no. But at least give me something to work toward. Am I going to be a Rolando McClain? Kiss my foot. No. But that gives me something to work toward. So, I mean, that's kind of my whole ordeal on this. But just getting back to recruiting in-state guys, I think it's a big deal. Because I always go back to, when you get an offer from Alabama and you're in the state, it means so much to you because you grew up, this is my team, this is my program. I watch these guys, I live through these guys, I breathe this. So when that offer hit my hand, like, oh man, this it. Like, I got the offer. Like, it's literally in my hand. Like, I literally see this. So that's just me. That's just my opinion. But I'm definitely looking forward here to this matchup. It's gonna be a good one between Alabama and LSU. I mean, you got two programs that put a lot of people in the NFL draft. I mean, I go back to, of course, the 2019 game where you had several guys from both teams in that 2019 game into the NFL draft, and several players from both teams in that 2011 Alabama LSU game in the regular season are playing in the NFL. Now, Adam Lamparello writes in there. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Adam Lamparello writes in there. He goes, Pete Golding is not the problem. The defense just isn't that good. Justin, your thoughts there on Adam's statement?
I think Pete Golding has definitely had a better season this season The only game that I really criticized them was that Tennessee game because I just didn't understand how you didn't get any pressure on Hendon Hooker. That didn't make any sense to me, specifically in the second half after you saw what was going on in that first half. But after watching Tennessee against Kentucky, I'm sort of understanding it a little bit more. Tennessee is an explosive offense, fast offense. They don't give you an opportunity to make adjustments and have communication, which is why I felt Alabama struggled against those particular teams. So I think Alabama's defense definitely does not stack up against the defensive talent that they've had in the past. Those great defenses. I don't think that this particular defense is in the conversation to be the very top. But I feel this defense is pretty solid in my opinion. I think they have the talent at all three levels, in my opinion. On the defensive line, I think they definitely need to get better from a pass rushing perspective. But to win out and win a SEC championship and a national championship, to be honest, I feel that if Bill O'Brien can figure it out, I guess you kind of say he can't figure it out, but I think Alabama's offense can lead it to a championship. I still feel Bryce Young can lead this team to a championship. So I don't think Alabama's defense has to be to the where they're spectacular right now. I think those days are over where Alabama's defense has to go out and dominate, and like they dominated Leonard Fournette a couple years ago in Tuscaloosa, bottle LSU's defense up. I don't think Alabama has to be that defense anymore. You would love to have that defense. I think it's an opportunity if Alabama keeps working hard and continue to get better. They can't get back to that because we've seen Georgia do that. I know at one point it was an argument to be made that your defense can't be that good anymore. Your defenses can't stop offense. Offenses are too explosive. But I think Georgia has definitely put that in place that, your defense can still be dominant. So I think Alabama's defense doesn't have to be spectacular for them to win a championship. It just has to be good. And I think they have an opportunity to continue to grow and continue to be better.
Yeah, no, I agree with Justin. Definitely the Pete Golding had against Tennessee hurt my Pete Golding stock a little bit, but just based off the lack of adjustments made in the pass rush department. But I think he's been good, and I think it is a little bit of a mix between not having it's not like you said, it's not an elite Alabama defense, and Pete Golding's not an elite coordinator. I think he's good, and that's that. And when you have a quarterback like Bryce Young who can make things happen, I know a lot of people have also criticized the play calling on offense, and the receivers haven't exactly been great, but Bryce Young is fantastic, and that guy can change the game offensively. And you just look against the Tennessee game, he can get you in a shootout and have you right there with you. And it kind of just lands upon the defense, just be good, home to 25 points, and Bryce Young will find a way. That's pretty much all that they really got to do in order to sort things out here.
Well, folks, you got Alabama and LSU coming up here on this upcoming Saturday, November 5th, in the Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're right here, the BAMA Elite Podcast Touchdown, Alabama Magazine, right here on YouTube, coming off of the bye week here for your Crimson Tide. You got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for the best college football coverage in the South. If you can't catch us here, the BAMA Elite, you got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network. Also, our guys at Prize Picks, I remember saying it, get there right now. Fantasy sports, all you need, all you crave, right there. It's you against the projections. If you're talking Alabama football, which means if you put it in a deposit of $50 or $100, hey, you get that match back to you. You can't beat that. Use the code BAMA100. That's again BAMA100. It's you against those projections using that more or less value. Guys, I'm just going to be real with y'all. It's kicking my butt right now, man. It really is, okay? Every time that I put more, it's less. And when I put less, it's more. So, you know what? I'm just going to Charmin toilet tissue my way out of this one. I cannot do it. Can't do it.
Definitely not necessarily based off our history. Not the group of guys we've had a tough run of it. We keep going back to it,
Pat, I'm trying here to make myself seem like I'm the Vegas guy that can win you something. No, Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is not me. I'm gonna take Justin's forte of let's not make a prediction. Let's just get the first thing that hits in the top of your head there. But folks, this has been the Bama Elite here, giving you the recap of the bye week, conversations of the college football playoff where Alabama is concerned, and kind of sizing you up here as we are in the LSU week. For all of us here at TDA, for Justin Smith, lead scouting and recruiting analyst Patrick Dow, breaking news reporter, I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. We'll see you back on Thursday for the bigger preview of Bama LSU. It's been the Bama Elite.